What's the difference between the work energy principle and conservation of energy? They look really similar. You have kinetic energy terms at state 1 and state 2. You have work terms in both of them. They're very similar equations and very similar methods of solving problems. So what's the difference? The difference is how we take into account conserved work or potential energy. So we talked about two different cases of this. One is gravity. So how do we take into account gravity? Varies between the two. So for work, we would do the work done by gravity would be mg delta h. Or in conservation of energy, we'll call this gravitational potential energy, and we'll put it in as mgh. Will you end up with the same thing at the end? Absolutely, because you'll have this on both sides, and you'll subtract them to get the delta h that we have in our work energy principle. Same with springs. How we take into account the work done by springs is different in the two. In the work energy principle, we'll do the work done by springs is 1/2 k S1 squared minus S2 squared. And in conservation of energy, we'll say elastic potential energy is 1/2 k S squared. Again, you'll get the same thing when you end up subtracting them because you have it on both sides in your potential energy term of conservation of energy. Really, really similar approaches. The difference is just how we deal with these two things. So any problem you can solve with the work energy principle, you can solve with conservation of energy for this class, and vice versa. On the exam, it'd be reasonable for me to ask you to solve a problem using a specific approach. So solve this problem using conservation of energy. Then I'll expect you to set it up as potential energy terms and not as the work done by that thing. Vice versa, I could also say do the work energy principle, and I would expect you to account for gravity and springs as the work done by these things instead of potential energy. So very similar approaches, very similar solutions, just a little nuance in how we deal with conserved work or potential energy.